Pedophiles and child rapists are off to a very bad start in 2023 for being incarcerated in prison. I'm going to tell you about a February case in California and a February case in England. Now, a lot of people tell me, sir, you're wrong. Child molesters and pedophiles are safe in prison because they have places to put them separate from other people, and it's their job to protect them and make sure that they do not get hurt. Wrong on one count, right on the other count. You are correct that it is correctional facilities' jobs to protect all inmates. And that's what we should try to do to the best of our ability. But you are so wrong when you say that child molesters and pedophiles are safe in prison. And year after year, we hear about these cases. We're barely into 2023, and we have a case in California at North Kern State, I believe is the name. It's like a reception center, where a serial killer of adults killed 2 of his family members and 4 other men on the streets, goes to the California prison in a reception center. And a child rapist also goes there. Well, they end up in the same cell, okay, at this reception center. For those of you that want to know what is a reception center, that is where inmates go when they're first sentenced to prison, and they're classified by the prison's classification officers on where they will be sent to, what prison they will be sent to, high, medium, low security, maximum security. They're listed as high risk escape. They have to go through a whole process to place these folks into the right prison to help protect the citizens and the inmate population and the people who work in the prisons. Well, in this case, the classification or the prison security placed these 2 folks in the same cell. Well, one thing that you don't ever want to end up in the same cell as, if you're a child rapist, is a guy by the name of Escobar. I don't want Escobar in my cell with me. 51 years old, killed his aunt and uncle, then went and killed 4 street people in California, serving life in prison, and now is placed in the same cell with a pedophile who is 53 years old, serving life for child sex. And guess what, folks? Juan Villanova, the child molester, the sex offender, the pedophile, was found dead in the cell with Escobar. Now, you don't want to end up with Escobar in your cell when you're a child molester. Now, there will be an investigation done. And during the investigation, because I used to do investigations in the prisons as well, you're going to ask questions. You're going to find out how these 2 ended up in the same cell. May be perfectly fine. You have to go to classification and interview them and find out, how they got placed in the same cell. Should they have been in the same cell? There's a ton of questions, and the investigation hasn't come out yet. This just happened around February 25th, 2023. So there's a lot of investigation to be done on how Escobar and this child molester ended up in the same cell, and how Juan Villanova ended up dead. Well, he probably said something to Escobar, and it didn't go over too well. Who knows? We'll find out when the investigation comes out. But these are points I'm just trying to make, that 2 rights don't make a wrong. Escobar is a filthy murderer, okay? Killed 2 of his family members too, besides these 4 men. Filthy murder, because he doesn't like a child molester. And if he did kill his cellmate Villanova, well, 2 rights don't make a wrong. 2 wrongs don't make a right. And I just want to make that clear. I am not sitting here advocating that, oh boy, Escobar killed Villanova. Well, Escobar's crimes are very dirty and hideous as well. Okay? It's our job to place inmates in areas to prevent injuries, but we can't do that all the time, folks. And I want to explain that to you. I have people come on here and put comment, They should have been protected. Well, we try our best to protect inmates. I'm going to give you a quick short example before we go over to the England guy who was killed in his cell just 2 weeks after being sentenced for some very bad child rapes. I'll give you an example of a prison here near me, about 1,100 inmates, 28 officers on duty, okay? How can 28 officers watch everything 1,100 inmates are doing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? You can't do it. You try to maintain control. You give officers dorms with a large amount of inmates. You try to do your rounds on time. You try to keep the peace. But let me tell you, there's always a moment in a prison for a rape. There's always a moment in a prison for a killing. You know how fast it takes a guy to kill another guy in prison? Not long. Some of these guys know exactly where to get a hold of you and snap your neck or beat you to death. And remember, some rounds are every 30 minutes. Some inmates are classified to have rounds every 10 minutes. Suicide watch just has to be 24/7. So, you know, you have to stop and think before you make comments if you're not involved in how the prison system works. You can't watch and protect them 24/7. I'm sorry. In order to do that, legislature would have to break loose millions more dollars so we could triple our correctional officer staff that is already crippled to extreme staff shortages, which leaves times for the inmates to take care of dirty business. Just wanted to throw that out there. Now we'll shoot over to England, the HM prison in Durham, England. Andrew Halwin, 39 years old, and his wife for 4 years abused their own children, starved them to death, would go down and get fast carry-out food, come home, eat the food in front of their children. Their children were scavenging in grocery store dumpsters trying to find food. They would beat them and do sexual things to their own children. Well, this sweet guy here in this picture with his nice little cookies there or whatever he's got is now deceased. He was found dead in his cell, and that report came out in early February 2023. And that is also under investigation on how did he end up dead. Why did I want to use one from the U.S. and one from England as an example? Trying to show you, you know, that other countries have these same issues in their prisons. Some are way worse than the U.S. Some are better than the U.S. Some are the same as the U.S. But all prisons have problems, and they all stem from the same issue of, did they properly classify the inmate? Was the inmate where he should have been? You know, and so forth. Now, I don't know yet if this Durham, England guy killed himself in his cell or if he was killed. That also was under investigation. But my point is that it's a bad start for child rapists and pedophiles in the year 2023. And I've said this over and over every year. If you think they're protected and there's no way they can get hurt in prison, you need to do some more research. You don't need to just sit out there and go and dictate how it works behind the walls in the prisons if you have not worked back behind those walls or if you haven't been incarcerated. Now, if you've been incarcerated, you know what goes on behind the prison walls, and you know darn well what I'm saying when there's the moments of opportunity with no security present that dirty deeds can be done by other inmates to other inmates. All right? Let me know what you think. Let me know your experience. Take care, everybody. Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe.